All right, so everybody, thanks so much. Please subscribe to this podcast. We're really pushing it out. Please subscribe again. We have a returning guest. She's been on many times, too many times for me to remember. And that's why we keep bringing her on, because she does bring the fire when she talks. She does have a new book out, Civil Rights Baby. Now it came out a little bit before, but there's a little bit of a rewrite now due to all the insane stuff going on in our country. Not surprised, but anyways, we're gonna have Nita Wiggins back on, and she is in France, and we're gonna be talking about a lot of different things. So Nita, thanks so much for coming back on. Greatly appreciated as always.
You're welcome, Rob. I love it when we make time to talk to each other. So thank you.
Right, so let's kick this around. Super Bowl is coming up next week. I know you have been trying to organize with many different people on Block the Super Bowl. I know you've had this idea for quite a while, and you've done this with other sporting events. Can you just bring us up to date on what Block the Super Bowl means as far as your push with that toward the U.S. Senate?
Right. Well, Block the Super Bowl is a way for us as a country to ensure and advance voting rights for people who are blocked from voting. And when I was looking at where we as voters could find 10 more votes, or at least the majority in the Senate, to pass the voting rights bills that are proposed, what I looked at is what has worked before to move government. And what I found is that with the Super Bowl, that was planned for Tempe, Arizona for 1993, that Super Bowl was yanked from the state. And that Super Bowl was played in Pasadena, California. So the Cowboys, actually, the team I had loved my entire life, was the team that played the New England Patriots in California that year. That was the first of the 3 Super Bowl wins with Jimmy Johnson and Jerry Jones at that time. But what I looked at was, how were the sports figures able to affect policy? And what the NFL did at that time with Gene Upshaw as the head of the Players Union. The Players Union said, we will not play a Super Bowl in a state that does not recognize the Dr. King holiday. And Commissioner Paul Tagliabue at the time agreed. And so the Super Bowl was taken from a state where the players were not, where the players demanded they would not play a Super Bowl. And it can work again, simply if I can get the message spread far and wide to not only the Players Association, but to organizers in the states that are set to host Super Bowls. If I can put those pieces together and have the different groups of people talking to each other, they can say voting rights is so much more important than recognition of a holiday, and that people and athletes who are not interested in playing a Super Bowl in a state where senators block voting rights, all of these pieces can fall together just to get a vote in a positive way on the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. This is nonpartisan. Right. Voting is nonpartisan. I am nonpartisan. I'm a political independent, but I'm a person who knows that athletes and the money that they bring into business communities can be the one element that pushes stubborn politicians.
I know you were trying to do this. I believe was this like a year or so ago? You were trying to do this with baseball. Am I right on this?
Well, Rob, I'm always trying to do something.
Fair, true.
I consider myself a solutions person. And what I was working on, and I'm still working on it, is called Good Cops Only at Game. And this is to reduce police violence. And the reason I feel athletes can be key to this, of course, the money to be made, but I feel the reason athletes would want to be a part is that when I was a sports journalist and I would interview high school stars or college stars, or even on NFL draft day, I
Mhm.
was in the homes of two different college players waiting to go to the NFL.
Right.
All of that shows me that the communities that produced these athletes are the communities that are on the short end of voting and are targeted with surgical precision to block the voting. And those communities are the ones where we see a lot of the victims of police violence. So good cops only at game and block the Super Bowl really are ideas that can elevate communities that have produced athletes, but the athletes move on and I salute them. But the people they love who are still in those areas are still facing some of the dire situations in our country.
So who are you working with to try to accomplish this for the Super Bowl?
I have been publishing on my LinkedIn and my YouTube channel to my community, my réseaux sociaux, my social network. And I am fortunate to have heard back from some friends who are attorneys in Texas.
Mhm.
And one of them in particular said that he has been ringing up Senator John Cornyn, one of our Texas senators.
Right.
And so my contact and my outreach has come from the people I know. But because I'm trying to master the idea of using hashtags, I have also used hashtags that have been spread to other people I don't know. And I've talked to political organizers who live in France and political organizers in California, people I don't know who heard what I was doing and reached out to me. And I have spoken, I have emailed on LinkedIn with a Super Bowl winner, a 3-time Super Bowl winner, who did say that, yes, he thinks both of my ideas are good ones. And he may be maneuvering to support me behind the scenes, but he's not going to be public about this yet. And one Cowboys player I used to interview when he was the player representative for the team. We have been in touch via LinkedIn. And so my network of athletes I interviewed, some of them have responded. My political friends and allies have responded, and other people I know in many professions have responded that yes, they will send my ideas far and wide. And even journalists. I worked in 7 television markets, including Seattle and Dallas and Memphis. And people from those markets have contacted me and they are spreading the ideas. And so what I really need is one big explosion of information that gets the word to the senators who are blocking the voting rights legislation. And that was very widespread. Let me target it a little bit too, so that people can catch on to what I'm saying. Arizona is the next Super Bowl, not next week, not the one coming up, but the Super Bowl in 2023 is set for Arizona. And I would imagine the business community in Arizona would not like to see a Super Bowl yanked from them and their business accounts again. If enough people who agree with this idea were to make it known in Arizona, your Super Bowl is at risk if your elected official blocks voting rights. After that, in 2025, Louisiana has the Super Bowl in New Orleans. There are 2 senators from Louisiana who are blocking voting rights, Senators Cassidy and Kennedy. And through my network of people, I'm trying to make sure that those senators understand that for a Super Bowl to be played in their state and for their business community friends to make their money from the Super Bowl, the senators simply need to support voting rights, which is part of citizenship.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I want to go into this because, first of all, it's really important that you're doing this. I should say that. Secondly, this seems a lot like what you're doing to what happened back in 2018 with the NBA back in North Carolina when they had the bathroom bill. Was HB2 that was passed by the North Carolina legislature, and the governor signed that into law. The NBA ended up abandoning the All-Star game in North Carolina and moved the game to Los Angeles. So I kind of, put two and two together of what you're trying to do with the Super Bowl issue compared to what the NBA did with the bathroom bill issue in North Carolina.
And what Major League Baseball did with the All-Star game in Atlanta.
Right.
The All-Star game left.
True.
One thing that I do teach with my students here, my journalism students, of course you remember with the fatal shooting of Michael Brown. But the University of Missouri was having racial issues as well. And a student named Jonathan Butler went on hunger strike because he was one of the students who wanted the university president to address some racial issues. There was no response from the administration. However, when Black football players for the Missouri Tigers realized that one of their cohort, one of their generation, was risking his life to make a change with the racial climate, Black players decided they would not go to practice. And then white players at the University of Missouri said, well, we're not going. We're a team. We are in fellowship with you. And then the coaches said, oh, we can't coach. But what they did, what the student athletes did, is that they were risking the $1 million that the football team was going to provide by being on TV that weekend. And guess what? The university president was ousted. So one university campus, starting with the disgust and the pleas for change with the students, they spread their deep desire to make change to the athletes. When the football team said, hey, the money is at risk, and Nike, by the way, is the brand that the university was wearing that year. Nike did not like having an absence of its product on the field in the game. And this was just, 5 years ago? Yeah. Like I say, I teach that with my sports students. And so when there is the risk to the runners of the plantation, when their money is at risk, that's when changes come, because it is a plantation system.
President Biden's approval rating with Black voters has dropped to 60%, where it was after the election at 90%. Why do you feel like that is?
Because there are stale ideas that are circulating in Washington. Because there's no freshness. I don't know why. When I heard Elizabeth Warren on the late night show with Stephen Colbert say, oh, there's nothing we can do in the Senate to get the voting through. All we can do is get the people on record the way they voted.
Yeah.
And I just can't even describe how that stabbed me through the heart, because she's a fighter and she's a brilliant strategist. And it was after I heard her say, all we can do is get them on record.
Yeah.
Then I thought, no, there's something we can do. And again, this is part of the answer to your question about why, if the approval rating really is falling, why that is. It's because a fresh idea like mine, I don't know why someone holding office currently hasn't said this to the people who are blocking voting rights.
Yeah.
And when you've been in the Senate for 39 years, as Mr. Biden was, and then you were in the part of the executive team. Oh, come on. There are supposed to be ideas. And that's why. But you know how I feel about polling. Put them in the garbage can.
Yeah.
I don't care about the polls, because when a poll is released, that means journalists spend their day chewing on the numbers instead of talking to a voter about what the concerns are for that voter. So this approval rating, I don't care. I don't care, because I do think there are some strategists who are working on what they need to work on behind the scenes. And so I'm not interested in the scorecard every week. I don't care who had a poll. It's a scorecard, burn it.
All right, so Nita, as we go to the end of the interview, can you talk a little bit about Civil Rights Baby? I know it just went into a new version of the book just due to all the craziness that's going on in our country. So if you could tell the viewers a little bit about that and where they can get it in general.
I love that question. So thank you for asking about finding the book. There is so much that needed to change for equal opportunity, at least in life as I lived it. And there have been changes, not just the installation of a woman as vice president of the United States, but I talk about sports in the book as well, because I spent 17 years as an on-air sports reporter, and I covered the Dallas Cowboys and Seattle Seahawks. And when we talk about the lawsuit that has floated this month, Black History Month, Brian Flores, who was fired from Miami, talks about the plantation system that is professional sports. I talk about that in my book, but I even go farther than Brian. I talk about that in my book, but I even go farther than Brian Flores, because I talk about the plantation system in college football. And that I, as a teenager, saw that there were white coaches with a lot of Black players on the field. And as a teenager, I saw there were not Black coaches leading teams. And so that's just another component of the book that really makes it, it's just a book full of hot topics and civil rights changes and demands for changes, more equitable treatment of people. And so it's a book that someone who's interested not only in voting rights and the effect of elections, but in people who stand up for civil rights. I've been told that my book is a guidebook on how to stand up for yourself and to get the right treatment that you need, that you deserve. And as far as where to get the book, because I love and support local bookstores, I say, first of all, anybody out there, contact the store where you like to buy your books, your local bookstore. Your bookseller can get it for you. Also, Barnes & Noble. I am so pleased that this new edition of Civil Rights Baby is available on Barnes & Noble and from your favorite bookseller. Whether you're in the US, Canada, Australia, Germany, France, you can get it. And thank you for asking about it, Rob.
All right, Nita Wiggins, we look forward to having you on again in April to talk about the French election, and I'm sure many more crazy topics going on in our country and our world. So Nita, thanks so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.